Okay, so today I want to walk you through kind of my updated slide preparation process, and we'll take a step back before I get to it. And that is to say, what I've been doing up until this point. I use a tool called Slidebean. It's quite fine. I have a lifetime deal to it, so I'm, very incentivized to make use of the tools that I've already paid for access to. I'll give you kind of like a quick look at what that has traditionally looked at. Basically, you can pick from some different like preloaded themes. You can customize according to your specific branding elements like typography, colors, and things like that. And another thing that's really cool about it is it has this feature. It's either Command or Control plus A, and it basically rearranges the elements so that they're balanced on the page. So as you can imagine, like if this is like a little bit off, maybe I can show you a quick example. It gets a little robot and it just like rearranges them. Um, so it's great. As a non-designer, I can quickly implement, different thoughts and ideas without having to overthink or overspend time on arranging them. And, yeah, no issues here. It's easy to share these. It's easy to export them. But I recently came across a tool that I think makes my life even that much more easy. So that tool is called Gamma. And this is a tool that I got access to through Lenny's newsletter community and Lenny's podcast, if you're familiar with that. He has this Lenny's product pass. So if you are a paid subscriber to his community, I pay, it's like $200 a year. You get access to a whole lot of AI tools, a lot of vibe coding tools, a lot of sort of just like different AI productivity tools. So I use pretty much all of them on a regular basis, so it's really worthwhile to me. And even Gamma on the Pro plan it would cost more than what I'm paying in Lenny's newsletter just to access this tool at that level, which is what I get a free year of when being part of that community. And so we can kind of like go back to pricing. I want to show you the tool itself, and then it'll make a little bit more sense what the different plans are. But what's really cool about Gamma is it's like an AI native, AI powered presentation tool. And there are a couple of different ways that you can build out presentations in Gamma. First of all, you can create something new. You can just give it like plain text. Another thing that's really cool is that you can give it a URL, such as a blog post. And I'll show you an example of that really quick, which is I just gave it this recent blog that we posted on the Blogsmiths blog. That's a Wix review, and a little bit meta. I'm actually wearing the headphones that they sent me to mess with the WordPress community, but I'm not complaining about it. So as you can see, like I gave it that URL. It scraped the content, including the different images that were embedded, and it repurposed the content into a more visual format. I haven't really edited anything on this page. This was really just a test. It also created some stock images, which I'm not crazy about, but I can easily get rid of. Just nice visuals. And I think the benefit of something like this is, not only I might create blog content and then want to repurpose it as a presentation. There are certainly situations where that's been the case. But I think the other maybe greater benefit is that you could use this to create kind of like shareable infographics that you could share on social media, which is a lot more interesting than just looking at the text or sharing a screenshot. It gives a little bit of extra context. And I think this is like definitely AI generated, right? You can kind of tell that like the text is a little wonky. So that's something that could definitely use a little bit of work, I would say, on Gamma's side. But we all need to have something to strive for. So that's kind of cool, but that's actually not the use case that I want to share with you today. What I want to share is a recent workflow that contributed to the end result, and that was a particular presentation that I gave for a specific summit event, and I'll get into that in a second. And I used Gamma essentially to take their template and import those styles, and then import the notes that I created with my co-presenter Margarita, and like easily whip up this presentation, just being really efficient with our time. because we both have other things going on. You know, we spent time collaborating, we spent time putting the topic together, and so it just made sense to try to use this tool to be really efficient about putting our slides together. So in addition to that create new, you also have this opportunity to import both content, but also a theme design. And so on this page, you could give it a PowerPoint. You could also connect to Google Drive, which is what I did. We got a copy of Google Slides from the place that we were presenting from. And so I imported that, and I can show you what that looked like after I imported it. And that's here. And so these are the actual slide templates here that we were given. And you could see that like the typography matches, I think generally speaking, sort of like the balance of elements matches. It took some liberties, like with the accent color, it probably should have actually been this light gray, and it made it this red because it was probably picking up some of the red elements in the images, which isn't wrong, right? It's just a little bit different than maybe what was intended. And then the other thing that didn't necessarily work great was I tried to give it this logo, but it didn't really incorporate it on any of these slide templates. But other than that, I think it looks pretty darn close. And at the end of the day, we knew that Learn Worlds, who was throwing the summit, was going to put that final polish on the slides. So I wasn't too worried about that. I guess like one last thing that I'll point out was there was this element on the bottom that featured the presenter and their session and some of the details about it, and it kind of completely ignored that, even though it was present on most of the slide templates. But I think honestly, for just having to import the slides and going with its suggestions, it did a pretty good job. So let me show you what it actually looked like putting our content in it. So we'll go back to gammas, and this was the working draft here. And I'll just give you like a peek at our notes here. So this is just a description of the event. And then as you could see, the outline, pretty basic, just heading, bullet points, some level of formatting and like directional cues. And that's all we gave it. So going back in, and I will say, like, I made some small edits past that, just to kind of adapt the notes from note, or to adapt the content from notes to like slide ready material, something presentable, but very like minor edits. So this is what it gave me. It pretty much added an image, like a stock image, to each of these slides, which we didn't end up using because there were some screenshots that we incorporated. So like it wasn't actually as wide as you see here. It was like just kind of like the white box. And what else? So yeah, it took a stab at like generating an AI stock photo that I more or less ignored, but it doesn't hurt me. I could just delete them. And as you can see, we have that sort of like red element. I think we did end up keeping that. I don't think that got changed. So that wasn't a bad thing. And one thing that I wanted to point out was how cool, or like how great of a job it did at just like arranging the text, like taking this piece that was here and turning it into this without, much further ado. You can also go and change the layout that it's provided you. It gives you a lot of suggestions by clicking that change layout button after you click the little three dots. And it's really comprehensive. There are a lot of different ways to visualize this data. And so for me, again, as like a non-designer, that was a total win to be able to just like quickly, I did this for a couple of them. I rearranged whatever the suggested way of presenting that information was. And I really loved the options that it gave me. I didn't have to even like scroll all the way down to figure out what I wanted. So there's that. There's different things that you could do to edit it with AI. Like, maybe if I wanted to rearrange elements, I would just say, hey, like move this around. And yes, I could have dragged and dropped, but again, like with Slidebean, sometimes it's easier to just work with the tool because it knows that you're going to want a certain balance within this element. So instead of me going in and maybe breaking that balance, just asking the AI was really great. What else is worth mentioning here? I really like these like call out boxes that they had too. If you click the little three dots, you can also change the icon in the corner. You can change the color of them. So that was a great way to just present different types of information on slides. You can kind of see as we scroll just different ways it suggested visualizing this information. I will say one thing that's a quirk that you may or may not find helpful is that for things like this, I for a lot of things it would add extra content that was in addition to what was in the notes. So I ended up having to delete some things because it was kind of expanding in a way that wasn't helpful. Like, you want slides to be useful and continue the conversation and be a great reference point both for you and then for the attendees like after the session, but you don't want it to over explain concepts, and you certainly don't want it to invent methodologies that weren't what you intended. So that's kind of a quirk, but it was easy to identify and delete those things based on, the careful notes that we had. What else is worth mentioning here? I'll show you kind of as we go down here, like here's where we implemented some screenshots. You could add links and things like that. But yeah, I'm really happy with how it turned out. And so just a couple other things, you can share links and you can present from them, and it looks just like, a regular slide presentation. So that's kind of nice. You can preview and make sure that it looks good, or you could even present from here. You can also export your content. Let's see, if I go to share, I think I can add a collaborator, but then I can also export, including to Google Slides, which I think is really useful, especially because that's what we started from. That's what I needed to give back to the summit themselves to put their final polish on. And I think this is cool too, that you can even, like, if you're going to work on it on your local machine, as like a PowerPoint, it gives you the fonts you need to install. I haven't tried this LinkedIn direct post, but that seems like it would be pretty cool too. So that's like most of what's worth sharing, I think, for now on Gamma. I haven't tried a lot of these other elements where you can like embed different things, but I would imagine that they would work pretty great if that was your need. Let's touch on the plans and pricing. So there is a free version, and it's basically just kind of limiting how you can use the tool, but you can still definitely create presentations. As you get to the first paid plan and above, you get unlimited AI presentations. I'm not sure if there's a limit between free and plus in terms of like the amount of Gamma presentations you can create in a month. That's not super clear to me here. But as you get to the paid plans, you can remove the branding. You get more cards per prompt, which again, I'm not sure exactly how that works, but that's just worth mentioning. I'm on the Pro plan again through Lenny's newsletter, so I also get API access, which I think is what gets you access to their Zapier integration, so you can connect it to workflows to generate presentations on the fly, which sounds really cool. And they have these like monthly credits. If we go maybe back here, and it can show you kind of in the settings what that looks like. So it's like I can create, unlimited creations, but I have a certain amount of set credits per month for things like using the API, using the agent, any sort of advanced models. So that's something to keep in mind, but it's probably only super relevant if you're creating a lot of presentations, if you're creating a lot of like social graphics. The average user, like I don't think I've used any of these credits yet. So the average user, that's not really going to touch you and, limit your use. So I think that's most of what I wanted to share about Gamma. It is a really cool tool. It definitely saved me a lot of time for, this sort of initial use case for me, but I'm excited to use it for other presentations. I'm excited to use it to create more contextual and visually interesting share graphics for the blog content I'm creating. And yeah, ultimately at the end of the day, I hope that, it's opened your mind to another great tool that you can add to your toolbox and effective uses of AI.